is our September meeting of the NatickFOSS user group located in Metro West Boston. We meet virtually on a monthly basis. Most meetings like this one are the first Thursday of a given month, but to avoid holiday problems, we go to the second Thursday, and that's, in this case, September's date, the 11th. I'm going to share my screen because that's the first step. I'm going to go to the window of Firefox, and there you should be seeing the user group meeting for September 11th. And while I will be using these links on this particular view of our agenda for today, you can either enter this address to get to a current version of the meeting, the agenda that you're looking at, online at our NatickFOSS.org website, or if you prefer, you can use your phone to reach the same address by using a QR code that represents this same link. And that is our way we get to where you and I are looking at the same thing. As I check back with the correct screen, I don't see anybody's name that is a new person. Welcome to all of you for this nice Thursday. The weather outside's delightful. All right. Unlike that Christmas song where the weather outside is frightful. But that's an old song, so we'll get by that quickly. Our FOSS news is of a couple of different sorts. We have the 5th anniversary of Byte magazine, which in its day was more about proprietary things, but at the same time was in an era where pretty much everything of personal computer work wasn't really a restricted sort of thing. There was the programming language built into almost every user-facing home system, the small systems of the small system journal here. And Byte magazine provided people with an interest in computers with their technical specifications for all the kinds of equipment that were available at the time. And it is interesting to get a chance to look back. A lot of these issues are available, or at least some of the issues are available if you want to try to find them on archives of internet information. I hear a hand, I think. No, just maybe it was a...
I posted to the chat.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Byte and Dr. Dobbs were my favorite magazines.
Mm-hmm. There were several. At one point, my memory says there were something over 30 computer magazines that were on the newsstand shelves at Barnes & Noble and places like that. And very quickly after the 80s went by and into the 90s, the numbers crashed. My favorite was Creative Computing. The one started, I think, by David Ahl, A-H-L. And that one was particularly useful in my teaching because it had lots of basic programming that was possible to just type off the page into your local computer and experiment around it. So that was wonderful. That was my introductory magazine. along with several others, including Byte. But there was actually, I think, Computer World that was published here in Massachusetts, and it was a big deal for a long time. But Byte stands as, I think, the bellwether of the era, at least. Almost everybody recognizes that name who was around from that time.
Yep, we've advertised in it until it got to be thick and expensive.
It got thicker and thicker, if I recall, becoming almost an inch plus, and then phew, bang, the bottom dropped out and it was down and gone. But there we are with a history that we are glad to talk about, and we're glad we're still here to talk about it. Okay, back to the agenda itself. More of the current FOSS news. This month is Software Freedom Days month. It's a September event. And FOSS, or Free Open Source Software, is sometimes referred to as free software or software freedom, and all those terms overlap quite a bit, along with FLOSS, floss. I know I'm talking to people who know this, except for those who might be online watching this through YouTube. So I'm mentioning a lot of these details for those maybe newcomers who are just watching us without participating in the Jitsi meeting that we're having. The floss is free libre as opposed to free gratis, because the point of free software is that it has the ability to be studied and modified and reissued as long as you keep working within the libre structure of it and don't just expect to lock it up as private code. The Free Software Foundation, founded here again in Massachusetts, uses a license that enforces the use of their software, their GPL, General Public License, requires that any changes that you use publicly are returned to the community for improvement and analysis along with the original. Unlike some licenses that are free, but not libre in the same way. Anybody have any FOSS history? I got distracted this month and was unable to spend as much time as I intended on this agenda. If you have any contribution that you want to make during the meeting, please do raise your hand. You know, that virtual little button. There you go, Dick.
Well, I just add that we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Byte magazine, and properly so. But I think Jill and I are winning. Tomorrow we're celebrating our 60th anniversary, and probably half of that has been with FOSS. We also had a proprietary language we were using after we got tired of BASIC and wanted something as nice to program as BASIC, but much more powerful for the small computers that we had way back when. We discovered for ourselves Forth, which is a rather esoteric programming language. And we had our own version of it, MMS Forth, and it made those computers twice as good as they'd been before in a very comprehensible programming language. Then we
Sort of a
found
write-only computer language.
that's true. Made it easy to get it in. Then we discovered Linux. And it felt like we'd been getting ready to start to invent that. And it wasn't just us, it was about 6 people collaborating, building the version of a known language. When I got to Linux, I felt it was like our 6 people had become 6,000 people instantly. It was a wonderful, eye-opening experience.
Thank you. Jerry, you had your hand up too.
Yes, I was just going to mention Forth is I got involved in Forth when I was at Raytheon Data Systems back in the early 1980s. Had to be before 1982, so 80 or 81. And when I was looking for a language for a new computer that were coming out, we had to have a high-load language. And we were looking at Forth, and I did talk to Dick Miller at the time. And we actually brought in Forth Incorporated. And they actually wrote some code for us, which was very successful. We were not successful in that bid because another company actually bought it. They came up with a very low bid for the computer. But that's where I first met Dick Miller. So it had to be like 1980, 81, 82 possibly.
Anniversary for that.
Just say it again, Dick.
We need the date when you met us, because then we can have an anniversary for that too.
The more anniversaries, the better, I guess. Okay. My agenda says hot software is next. And this is a link to a discussion of something that may not be everybody's cup of tea. When most people start their computer, they use the system that's built into their distribution of Linux. I use Kubuntu, and it has the Plasma desktop. GNOME is the desktop most others use because it's what's there. But there are people with an interest in what is known as tiling. I think it's mostly those who do a lot of terminal work rather than Firefox or any other GUI kind of programming. And this one is Hyperland with Wayland features, and that might make it interesting to a few because it does not require the older windowing software of the x11.org. And if anybody wants to follow up and do a much more comprehensive look at this, that would be nice. Somebody who's an experimenter with installations, if there's anybody out there that does that kind of thing. I have not installed it. What I have installed is Inkscape, which we've talked about many times. And I'd like to do a brief demo of using Inkscape to make images that involve a dynamic offset for doing text effects. And what I'll do is click to the write-up that is on my website. It is at NatickFOSS demos, which you would get to by going to this link here on runeman.org. It's one of the articles that I've written up. And these are some examples of the effect we're talking about. And I happen to get the opportunity to experiment with this because of a forum challenge at the Inkscape forum. The person named Jobot there used Goldilocks as a cartoon, and I thought that the offset process was nice looking in their demo. So I expanded my understanding of it by finding out how to do it myself. The very basic steps are to enter some text, choose an appropriate font, duplicate the text, convert it from a text object to a path, and then combine it so that it is one path and not several separate letters. Apply a dynamic offset and drag to enlarge enough to get this effect behind the original text, and then move that to the bottom so that it's not covering the original text. Adjust as necessary and do colors and strokes as desired. And what I like to do is unshare this share that's currently going on. Now that you've seen what I intend, this is online, by the way. You can go to it if you want to try to do that. And I'd like to run my demo in Inkscape, and I need that to be a separate share that is of the whole screen, not just the window of Firefox. So I'm going to do that. The entire screen is what I'm going to share. And then we'll get away from this by starting Inkscape. And I suppose you are seeing how I launch using my KDE quick launch tool that pops over everything else. And you should be seeing an Inkscape blank page. Is everybody seeing that?
Yes.
Looks
Okay,
good.
good. What I need is some text, and I'm just going to start it using the base font that I always use as a beginner, the Atkinson Hyper Legible font. Has some features that I always like to have available. Most importantly, the capital letter I. It's not hard to distinguish from a letter L lowercase, no matter. That's why I like this font. It was designed for usability by people with low reading capabilities.
Legible.
All right, I'm going to, however, I'm going to write Goldilocks. And then I'm going to change from Atkinson Hyperlegible to a font that I downloaded called Basileur, B-A-S-T-L-T-E-L-U-R, Basileur, because it has the kind of look that I'm after in the demo. It was the one that the Jobot used as well. Now this is text, and it is something I can edit, but once I do the next step, I won't be able to edit it. I'm going to duplicate it before the next step, and for legibility, I'm going to change its color. This is now Goldilocks in a bright yellow, and it is still text I can edit at this point. But what I want to do with it is to change it from text, an object of text, to a path. And then to make sure that it is workable all as a single piece, I need to actually do either a union or a combine step. Right now, there are several paths in this text, one for each. Let me pause there just to show you what I mean. I go to the path tool. You can see each one of the letters has little markers. It actually is for each individual letter at the moment. But if I go to path and combine them, it doesn't change, but it does make the next step possible. And the most important step for our demo is that the combined text can now be treated as a single object for dynamic offset. This little handle is the only one that matters at the moment. It's now one object which will expand as I drag. It's not really legible at this point, but we're not interested in legibility because what we want to do with this is to lower it using the positioning tool at the top of the screen. It's now on the bottom, below the text. I could edit the text, but I cannot edit the background at the moment. This yellow background is kind of locked in. And what I want to do in this particular case, using the node tool, is to expand this just a little bit more to completely hide the white blotches between letters. That's the effect that I'm looking for. Now, depending on what I'm after, I can make the Goldilocks a color that is, I need to move that out of my way, sort of goldy, and maybe the outline part, the expanded piece, I gotta select just that. I want to be white so that I can put an outline of some color by doing Shift. And there I get this text effect that I was talking about, which I now can make a background for and put that at the bottom. Anything you put on the screen always is placed at the top of the stack unless you move it manually. So maybe red isn't the right background for this. Maybe that's better with fuchsia. Maybe you want a blue. It will vary with your needs. My illustration is something more of a sort of a dark red. And maybe I don't want a big black outline on that block, so I will go down to the color and remove the stroke. So there's my object, and I will use Control, Shift, and R, and then I would save that and export it, use it as an SVG, meaning editable to a degree, or export it to a PNG, which would be whatever I decided to call it in a location where I could use it. But that's the basic concept behind this process and program. I'm going to drop back to my demo that you can get to, where it talks about all the steps. You see right here, my original trial, I didn't get it quite adjusted correctly for the outline to close up. There's a little notch in the S, and that's reflected by the notch in the outer line. And depending on the font you use, you'll serve yourself well for different purposes. I've chosen Bestseller for the Goldilocks, a Call of Ops Duty for Housebound, and for the Planetfall version, Blambot Bulletproof. And if you want just a little more trickiness, you choose a font like the Grand Boom Graffiti font, and then use your outline, the dynamic offset outline, and shift it a little bit down and right to really get the graffiti effect of what you see on walls and trucks and various places around the world. And that's my demo.
Bravo.
Questions?
Bravo.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Okay, I'm going to unshare that so my screen is easier to deal with, and then go back to the agenda. Unshare. And we're ignoring that house phone. It's probably spam anyway. Now I want to share once again a window back to Firefox, and it looks like I didn't change anything, but this now can take me back to our agenda in one little click. I don't know how many people like demos about a software that they don't use themselves, but what I find is the small demos make it easier for me to understand something rather than the comprehensive demos that go through 10 different features all at once. And that's why I thought it was interesting to try this out. I see a hand from Dick and Jill.
Yep, I really appreciate your demos, Olga. They're not too long, not too complicated, and yet you're very clear on what you're demoing. I have used Inkscape a long time ago, like 10 years ago, and it's very interesting to see all the new features.
There are far more features than I have used. Every time I try a new one, I feel that I'm lost. But once I try it and work out why I might want to use it, I get something like this that I'm happy about, and I explore it just enough to know enough to decide when I want to try using a particular feature. I think that's the way to handle something like Inkscape, and I think that's also true of the Photox program. They are loaded with magnificent features, and every time we see a demo of that complex kind of program, it's nice to see the focus on a particular item so that you can understand it. And I think that's a good goal to try to do here, as we are not all experts in everything. So let's see what else is available to us. Hot hardware. Olimex is a European, I believe, Czechoslovakian, but although that's not the right name of it anymore because there is no such place. Olimex makes small computer boards similar to the Raspberry Pi, and it has suspended direct shipping to users because of the confusion surrounding tariffs in our country. An interesting part about it is that their explanation is as clear as I have ever heard about why tariffs are hard to handle in direct sales. U.S. Customs is now demanding a certificate of analysis, which would cost thousands of dollars, and it has to determine what exact amounts of aluminum, copper, and steel are in the product. For every item that they would send to be charged a tariff. Now, obviously, if you're building a car, it's fairly easy to determine how much aluminum or copper or steel are in the product. But when you imagine a circuit board with copper covering a large part of it, but at an extreme thin level, and then other components of the solder and it's just ridiculous. So they are available, their sales are now available only through local distributors like Mauser or DigiKey that are large firms capable of buying 1,000 units of a particular product at a time, making it easier to calculate those tariffs. And I don't know the overall result of tariffs as we go forward, but I thought this was another one of those proprietary problems that FOSS kinds of users face. This is hardware FOSS in a lot of ways, so these are not actually free hardware products. They represent the hobbyist level, and hobbyists are more FOSS kind of people than bulk purchasers might be. Anyway, I thought that was interesting enough to include in our agenda, and there you are. A lot of the rest of these hot internet and so forth were contributed by other people, so I will do my best to deal with them, but if you were the person who entered the information, sometimes people list the entry on our GitLab source that we use to build the agenda, but not always. Anyway, dial-up service by AOL, one of the early service providers before there were Verizons and Comcasts and those other kinds of things. AOL was one of the very early internet service providers, and they offered a dial-up internet connection, which they are canceling because I suppose there aren't too many people who want to connect that way anymore with satellites and fiber optics and things like that distributed through the suburbs and cities. But there also is apparently still a dial-up internet possible. I don't know much about either of these links. Does anybody else have a comment about them? Deafening silence. I imagine that this was one of the people who is not with us today. Okay. This one I did post in the register. Firefox is being castigated for using artificial intelligence in a way that causes the CPU to run at an unreasonably high level, causing all sorts of fan noise as the heat management tries to overcome the CPU usage of this artificial intelligence. And they do go through how to avoid it. I'm not sure that the source, yes, here it is. If a user would like to disable all local inference features, that's AI, I imagine, they can toggle the browser.ml.enable preference in the advanced settings under about config. About config. It's a very tricky space in the sense if you change something that you do not mean to change, you can goof up your installation of Firefox so that it does not work. But those in this group are usually a little more tech savvy than others. So it might be of interest to you to change these settings. There are several recommended on the internet along with this article. One of them is Browser ML Chat, and so on. If you study up on it on your own and can report back to your success doing it, please do so. I heard somebody with a hand up. No, maybe it was a chat. Jerry's looking at, yes, I do have the name tags that were put in my bag from our Science on State Street at Framingham University, but I'm not sure if everybody gave them to me. I don't know. Does that answer your question, Jerry?
No, I was wondering if you had actually printed them yourself. I still have my name tag.
I have the original source files that I made them from. Is that what you want?
Yep.
I would be happy to send you your original.
Yeah, I'm going to make one for myself for BLU, and
Okay, it is a an Inkscape file, I'm pretty sure.
which I thought it would be. That's
So I'll make myself a note here to send that to you. Anybody else want theirs or the original file for manipulation? I can send them to. Oh, I'll post it. Actually, I'll put it on my my website, and you can download it from there. How's that? That would be easier. Then it would be accessible.
that'd be perfect.
I'll do that.
Yeah, I
It
just
will.
have one more comment. Going back to the thing on Omni, whatever it was, that other company that's no longer shipping to the US.
Yes.
Back when I was at Burger King, I had to work on a software program to be able to identify every component, every food component in a Burger King product. Because they had Pillsbury actually had a problem when they banned cyclamates. They had no idea where cyclamates were used throughout their inventory. And we were owned by Pillsbury at the time. And we actually had a manual way to do it, which was very efficient. And food quality didn't want to automate it because it took them a couple of minutes to figure everything out. But they still had to automate because Pillsbury said you have to. And I was involved in that. I hate to get involved in it, but I learned a lot about quality control in Burger King.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes we get involved in situations that don't make sense, but we have to do them anyway.
When you eat a Whopper, I could tell you exactly what's in it.
Any meat?
Not these days.
Not these days. Okay. So I have followed some of the directions to keep my CPU under lower power, but I'm not sure that I want to try to figure it out here online to show exactly what I did. It was several weeks ago. All right. Computer security, privacy, and freedom. This is our conundrum of the day overall. Net neutrality advocates won't appeal their loss in court. They don't trust the Supreme Court to come up with a better answer, shall we say. They lost in appeals court, and they're not pushing further. This is obviously political because they talk in the article about the advocacy groups and the Republicans and Trump and so forth. So you need to read this with understanding both of politics and of what net neutrality's rules currently are. Throttling lawful content and banning paid prioritization were at issue. The point of that was not to give somebody like Disney better bandwidth than our own bandwidth for broadcasting this particular meeting. That kind of difference. I don't know how our meeting would be affected by that bandwidth differentiation, but the net neutrality rules are not the same as they once were. The court ruled that broadband is not like communicating with telephone, even though communicating with a telephone or any other kind of telecommunication activity is actually on broadband internet now. So how they split it out is weird. Anyway, the Sixth Circuit have not done well by the net neutrality advocates. And I presume that means we lose while some big corporation wins in a proprietary kind of way. One of the things about certain sites, and that's the reason for those little ad markers that you see on our agenda. If you look in, I don't know that you can see it. I'm trying to go back one page in order to get to the agenda. And actually there are two other links that come between the agenda and this page that we're looking at because of the way the Ars Technica website works. They actually bump two intermediate link pages between my original arrival at the page and the point from which I wanted to return to this agenda. I don't think you could see the menu I had pulled down, but if you go to this link from our page, I'm sure you will see what I mean. This page is live only for me, unfortunately, but you can get your copy on NatickFOSS.org. Okay. GitHub, one of the source code storage facilities of our world, just got less independent at Microsoft, its corporate owner, after the CEO resigned. And I have a feeling that this is just another part of the, oh, we love free software, we love Linux, we love incorporating our control of it over you. I have not actually read this article myself. It was added in by, I think, Ed. Anybody have a note about it that they'd like to express? Go ahead, Bob.
The one thing that I do know about the fallout from this, and this has been going on for a long time,
Yeah.
people have been going from GitHub to GitLab in order to get away from the way Microsoft is doing this extend, embrace, and extinguish routine. And I can easily see that GitHub eventually will just become another Microsoft site.
Unfortunate.
Whereas GitLab is running into some other problems, but they have to do with AI.
Yes. Oh, we are not problem-free, even amongst ourselves, I'm sure. But with that said, Microsoft's executive vision of Microsoft 12 and beyond could terrify some of us. This one intrigues me. I have a feeling that AI and cloud power going in place of software running on a local computer and doing its bidding for you the way you want it, when you want it, will become muddied, as I see it, if AI is involved intermediating between what you do on your keyboard and what power activities occur in the cloud to perfect what you intended, so that you don't do your own work, but AI does it for you and ensures that their copy of what you've done is available for screening because it's in the cloud, and so on and so on and so on. I don't like that concept very much, but we have the alternative. We use Linux. Linux does not follow the rules of Microsoft. Linux does not kowtow to the online cloud. They use the cloud, but it does not become everybody's overseer. And I think that's the reason many of us prefer using Linux versus and again, the click back took me 2 steps. I would be terrified of using a cloud-only service. Windows 12, I suspect, is going to not be yours. It will be a rental. I think I hear a hand. Yes.
You've got to remember a lot of these videos that get leaked turn out later to be little more than trial balloons. There were videos about what Windows 8 was going to be. There were videos about Windows 10, and none of this ever materialized. It was completely different. What AI does do in Windows increasingly is it replaces the old troubleshooters. And this is AI running locally, and it is processed locally. Your CPU now will have a little subunit called an NPU, and you will need a lot of system resources if you really want to make good use of it. But it will be more of an assistant, kind of like Cortana used to be, kind of like Copilot is now, and they want to expand it. Now, yes, they do want you to log in as a Microsoft account. They want you to go to the cloud. They want you to do snapshots. But so far, and I think into the foreseeable future, this is not going to be necessary. And no way is Windows becoming a subscription.
All right. I'll believe you when you remember that's exactly what Adobe did. There is no local Adobe software anymore. It's all subscription. And they were a big deal and probably still are for a lot of businesses, but they are only subscription. You cannot run a local copy of it without paying on an annual basis. Stop paying, you no longer get the software. Doesn't work. Can't use an old version either, because that doesn't work either, because you had to give that old version up when you bought the new software or rented the new software. Anyhow. All right. There are things that can happen on Linux, and apparently this article talks about a malware that's very malicious, using a compressed file name that evades antivirus detection. You have an email with an RAR attachment, which is a zip style file, a compressed version of something. RAR extraction occurs. You get this larger thing, which turns out to be a trigger that will fire off a bash script in your terminal, and then off it goes, loading all sorts of very unnecessary and probably harmful stuff into your computer, potentially leading to infections that go beyond your computer into other people's computer when you send email to them. I don't know if this is being taken care of. I have not read all the details of this file. Anybody else heard news surrounding this?
No, I was the one who originally posted this.
Thank you,
and,
Jerry.
I think that's something that really needs to be looked into. It's very complex. I had still trouble understanding how that actually works. For years, I said email can't be used. If you don't actually read the email, I used to say if you don't read the email, you couldn't be infected. But that actually even changed if you use something like Outlook. And with all the graphics in email, you're now exposed. And this happens to be embedded in the file name itself, which is interesting. And ELF is your binaries. When a compiler produces a binary, it produces it in ELF format, which is I've had to work with for years, because I wrote an assembler for Unix that generated an ELF binary. But there's a lot of stuff in a program binary that if you can get code into it, it can be very malicious. I think Bob had his hand up.
I believe you're right.
So my question is, if you have your Linux in default, bash scripts that would run as root cannot run without popping up an alert requiring your password to be entered. Do people just simply defeat that these days?
I'm assuming that the issue is rather that the antivirus programs currently don't identify the file as a problem.
What antivirus is there for Linux?
Off the
Clam?
top of my head, I'm not remembering its name.
Clam AV?
Hmm?
Clam AV is one.
Clam AV, that's right.
It's been
So,
around many years.
yeah. Clam by default does not look inside of archives, especially not big archives. You can set it so it will, but then it gets really slow.
Yeah, looks to be very complex, where it doesn't actually run the bash script in user mode. I looked at it and I found it difficult to really understand how it was actually being used. But it's and again, I've read the article about 2 or 3 times to fully understand it so far.
When the technology people are confused, it is a frightening thought that those of us who are user level, which I really do consider myself user level, we take on faith a great deal. And thank you for your insight. And I hope you can figure out what's going on so you can keep us safe in the future.
Yeah, I think this could probably infect Ricker. Ricker? Bill?
Bill?
Are you with us? We'll talk about it next Wednesday.
Aha. I see his ID mark.
I'm listening, but I was on mute and at the end of a Bluetooth wax string. I think this is a different archive vulnerability than the archive vulnerability I was looking at. So I don't know this one either.
We're going to
leave the RAR family.
Leave the topic for and officially recorded for the outside world to hear. We continue. Okay, we're down to the last area of discussion. We've had a fairly quick meeting today. We have several items in artificial intelligence and large language models. The AI industry is horrified to face the largest copyright class action suit ever that has been certified in court. I don't know whether that's going to mean things are working for us, but there is a class action that has been allowed to move forward that could ruin the AI industry by requiring them to pay money. Pay money? We're supposed to make money. That's the AI plan. Make money. Excuse me. A single lawsuit raised by 3 authors over Anthropic's AI training threatens to financially ruin the entire AI industry if up to 7 million claimants end up joining the 3-person litigation and forcing a settlement, even if it doesn't go to trial. I wonder how that's going to go forward. I wonder if we're going to be put in a position of too big to fail for AI in the same way that certain financial institutions were back in the 80s. can't allow them to fail because it would do too much damage to our economy. But we will have to wait and see, because this is just the early stages of this process. Each work triggering a $150,000 fine with 7 million potential claimants, that would be a chunk of change that has not been put into the coffers of all of AI yet. So they couldn't possibly pay it out. I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't think we're in good shape with this, because I don't think the courts are in the little guy's favor much on this AI stuff. I thought I heard a hand. Yes. It's Bob.
Yeah. I was just in a meeting yesterday in which a copyright and patent attorney was discussing Anthropic. What happened was they didn't get the rights. They didn't get pay the royalties or get the rights to the books they were using for training. And they are going to be ordered to destroy those books and not use them without payment. That basically is similar to the ebook licensing issues that that free public libraries have been facing. Can you train on somebody else's book without actually buying a license to the book? If you have a license to a book, you can use it. But if you don't have the license, and this is where Anthropic erred, then you're not allowed to use it under copyright law.
I hope things work out so that the AI community has a jolt of reality put into its methods, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't have a particularly great feeling about this. Not that I have in the past, but it's not getting any better. Okay. Somebody has come up with a concept that sounds like virus to me, but it is a reverse virus of sorts. This person says that he has installed something known as a zip bomb on his server. And the idea is that the bots, B-O-T-S, of internet scraping, bots used to discover new content, RSS feed readers, search engines crawling the internet for content, AI bots trying to get new large language model components, and then also malicious ones. He has come up with this zip bomb concept that takes a very small or relatively small compressed file, which will expand itself into a very, very, very large file that can then overwhelm the machine that's doing the scraping. And if you read through, the concept behind it is that he's going to allow encoding of gzip files to deflate the file for the bot. And that's, of course, the job of the bot, is to get that data from all over the web, but not necessarily be overwhelmed by it. And he believes that this is a technique that will render the bots ineffective. He uses a variety of different file sizes and then expands them. And it's a very technical article again, but it sounds like he's got some success with it. And I would be interested to find out if it is something that would eventually be useful to put on the BLU's server for us. But I certainly don't have the technical expertise to recommend it. I just thought it was an interesting concept. And I hear a hand. Bob?
I subscribe to a site called Ask Woody, formerly Windows Secrets, and they ran into a problem. First, a little background. These days, up to 45% of traffic coming into small websites are bots, crawlers, and AI trainers. Every time you deflect a request, it costs you money. And every time you accept a request, you run the risk of effectively shutting down the service in what is effectively a DDoS. One way to combat it is to use Turing tests like CAPTCHA. And that is what Ask Woody has resorted to. Another way is to make it a subscription site so that if you're not paid, you don't get in. They don't want to do that because they want the public to see some of their articles. The problem is similar to what developers have run into with bug reporting. AI can, in 1 minute or less, generate enough bug reports to keep a single developer busy for months. And most of these so-called bugs are hallucinations. They are not bugs. And many at GitLab and GitHub have complained about this. And so at GitLab, almost every place you go, you get a CAPTCHA before you get in. Your site, you get a CAPTCHA. And this is a defense. Zip bombs will eventually be detectable by the more, by the larger and more sophisticated AI training. And as a result, this may become less effective over time.
Okay. We are on to psychosis. AI, in a series of posts by a head of Microsoft's artificial intelligence, a man named Mustafa Suleyman. This is people who are suffering AI psychosis because they are talking to online artificial intelligence friends or assistants or helpers, or sounds like a person who is a trained psychologist, but in fact are not. And the feedback system of AI bots like ChatGPT, Claude, and Grok, they begin to feed back the feelings of the person who's asking for help, so that instead of giving real help, they support the gradually circling of the drain feelings that a person is feeding into the bot, and give that conclusion that they are okay, and maybe they're too okay, that their crazy ideas are supportive and supported by this otherness that's not a real person, who might or might not be a kind person. There's a thing out there called catfishing, which is people putting information up online about a non-existent person in order to attract attention and generate traffic. And they talk about themselves, and they are fake, but they talk about their fake persona and project it into conversations with others on the chat service wherever they are. And the poor person who is doing the honest conversation side of it becomes ensnared in the weirdness of the catfisher, leading to problems with their real life social life, because they are so entwined with this catfish person who has led them astray. And that's just real people with terrible intent. But if it can happen automatically with an AI bot, you don't even need to be malicious. You can just get bad results up and down the line. And this is about a particular person who analyzed the conversations that he was having with the AI and decided that it was just leading him worse and worse rather than being helpful. And we are just at the start of this problem. I hope we can keep ourselves sane in this modern technology world. If we can't, we got a problem. All right. Yes, I hear a hand. Jerry. Oh, no, it's Dick and Jill. Excuse me.
Okay. In a parallel universe, I've been measuring the same items. Might be of interest to a bunch of you. I've used eBay for many, many years with good success. It's got a bunch of competitors this year. And one of the new ones in the USA is Temu, Temu, a Chinese marketing operation online. And I guess they've been learning from Americans how to press the limits on advertising. Used to be they'd simply sell something for half price, and you could get it for half price. And what's more, if you ordered some amount from the same store on Temu, say $30 worth, you get an even better price, something like that. Encourage bulk ordering. Then they introduced something new. And the something new was, instead of selling it for half price, selling it for 10% of price. Brand new, warranted, the whole bit, 10% of price. Well, you didn't find out till you went to order it, but the shipping handling had gone up proportionately to cover the difference. You weren't getting anything off, it just looked like it. Then, tampering further with the tamperables, it turned out that they had some offers for really desirable items that were 1/10 of the price and no shipping charge. That's it. That's exactly what it said. Until you went through the process of ordering and near the end found out, what do you know, there was a shipping charge. How could there be when there wasn't? Well, apparently because you hadn't hit the limit, the minimum order. what minimum order? It said no shipping charge. Lost in between the two of them. Some people bought and some people walked away mad. I decided I'd try something different. And here's where the paths come together again. Their primary support services are entirely running on AI. Okay, I sent a message to them. I said, the honest advertised price for this is so and so, and it says free shipping handling. And that's a statement. It didn't say see further things. It didn't say we're kidding you. It didn't say, but there's less to come. How do we order it for that price? Not how come, not why are you doing this, but how do you enable us to order it at your advertised price? The AI wasn't trying to do marketing. It just wrote us up an order at that price. We can walk right through that entire system because the AI is not yet that slick.
Hmm.
This is good news on several points. I'm not sure how to take it in the long run.
Nice to know that you can ask an AI a good question and get maybe a hallucinated answer, but a good hallucinated answer.
Yeah. I'm currently wearing a very nice watch
Don't
band.
have your,
Oh, just a minute.
your
And this is open? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'm currently wearing a very nice watch band. It just arrived in the mail from Temu.com or from someone attached to them. And they're going for 99 cents each.
Hmm.
No shipping required.
no shipping charge required.
If you know who to ask, and the answer is not a person.
Bob?
So far, we'll see how
Yeah.
long that lasts.
Yeah, there have been problems for a long time with both Temu and Shin, and they are not true competitors to eBay. They have apps that they want you to put on your smartphone, which are pure spyware.
Except we don't put apps on our smartphone, or very few.
Right. We are not using their app. We are using their online support line, which turns out to be AI.
And that is why you're not being charged the shipping, I'll bet.
Right?
Because
Yeah, exactly.
that is why they tried to charge you the shipping on me.
Our
Because you
computer,
weren't using the app.
our computer is not yet bent in their direction.
Okay. This is an interesting article about Disney, who was planning as an organization to use Dwayne Johnson in AI form, meaning he agreed that they could do a digital version of him to use for the Moana film that he had earlier been an actor live for. But privacy concerns were not the issue, or actors' rights. The problem was Disney determined that copyright only covers human created works. It does not cover AI generated works. You cannot copyright. You do not own the rights. You cannot charge people. You cannot tell them that they can't duplicate images that are not human made. I think that's fascinating. And I wonder how long it will be before that loophole is closed, because Disney will put money into this to fight and get AI generated to be acceptable human or acceptable copyrightable work, in the same way that a recent, it's been a while now, in the same way that personhood was offered to corporate bodies. Corporations are people now. And that means money talks.
Been people for well over 100 years.
Well, there was some court case within the past 15 years. I don't remember what the title was. Something United, not Manchester United. That's a soccer team. But it specifically granted the allowance of personhood to corporate bodies so that they could spend money on voting. On
Correct.
and
Citizens United, and the ruling was that corporate persons on that, what incorporated means is artificially incorporated personhood, and always has. And what Citizens United said was that for the purposes of having constitutional First Amendment rights to speak to the government, corporate personhood counted as a person.
Astounding. Thank you. Citizen United, Manchester United, take your place on the other side of the Atlantic. Okay. Agentic. I did a recent call to get some work done at my house. And when I called to schedule the appointment, I worked with an AI agent. And it was the nicest experience that I've ever had with an AI agent. It was rapid, it was crisp, it was helpful. I got my appointment, and it didn't involve any person along the line to do the work. It was all very, very effective. And I think that this is a work in progress. I'm not generally happy with AI situations, but imagine a person such as a blind person ordering clothes online, not being able to quickly ascertain what clothes are being displayed on the screen because they're pictures that have little dots of color under them that you can click from color to color and size to size and find out what your size is and whether it's available in the color you decided. Those sites are horror shows for me when I try to use them. But imagine that kind of shopping assistant could cut through all that baloney and make it a nicer experience for the shopper. I don't know whether this will work out, but you can see that descriptions online vary for products of the same type offered by different companies. And this is a positive article about AI that I think might sway my opinion slightly in the future. I just thought I'd point out that I'm a good person in terms of rejecting artificial intelligence, if you were to ask me about it. But this sounded like a potentially positive experience. I hear a hand. And Jerry.
Yeah, as most of you probably know, the fast food industry wants to automate their kiosks, the drive-up kiosks. Drive-up kiosks are really a problem because a lot of the people that will work for those wages are not natively English speaking or have accents and stuff like that. And it's hard to deal with somebody with an accent sometimes, especially over radio. Uh, and fast food companies want to do that, but of course, what was it? Somebody ordered thousands of milkshakes or something else from another company. I forget which one it was, but it gets crazy. But that's really what fast food industries needs to do with these drive-throughs is to because taking an order of a drive-through can take a long time. With AI, they can eliminate the human in there, and probably to an advantage.
I
But
used the kiosk that's at the inside of a McDonald's a couple of times. That was a substitute for speaking an order to a person behind the counter. And I felt that the experience at that time, is 5 or 6 years ago, was not really good because the screen structure did not progress what I would say logically. And it took a great deal of time for me to get what I thought was an easy order of Big Mac and a Coke. Took me about 3 or 4 minutes. I know I'm an old guy with limited capacities with technology, but if an AI assist will make that better and not sell me 1,000 sodas, I'll be pretty happy about it.
yeah, well, I had the same experience you had in a McDonald's indoor kiosks.
Mm-hmm.
But normally, if I order from McDonald's, I order from my phone,
A lot
and
of
I
people do
order,
that.
or it's more often Popeyes,
Mm.
where I order a dozen wings.
And they fly right to you.
Yeah, I actually have to. I go to lunch on Wednesdays with. We used to take out one of my pilot friends who had dementia. He's since passed away last week,
Oh, sad.
but we still go to. But there's a Popeyes almost right next door to the Vietnamese restaurant we go to, and that closed. They had a fire in their kitchen, and so I go out to the best one from Chelmsford out to Leominster, and I even used to call them, and sometimes he didn't actually get the order in, and now their app, at least I can say specify which pieces I want,
Mm.
which it used to not do. So now I'm happy.
Good. We shall experience a good deal of this as we move forward in our lives, because I don't think that the AI experience has come to a conclusive point. I see Dick and Jill.
Another historic cue to the future. Back in college days, a bunch of my friends went to MIT, stayed for grad school, studied under one Marvin Minsky, and they were developing the concepts for AI and working originally with huge, what we call mainframes, but they were the small computers of that year that were competent, and back with vacuum tubes at the beginning. And they've tracked through for a long time as AI has grown, not just in terms of competence, but in terms of marketability, who makes what profit from it, how, and in terms of many other aspects. As it turns out, tomorrow and Saturday, I'll be talking to some of those people. And I invite you personally to email me before tomorrow dinner time. If you have one succinct question you'd like me to relay on to these early AI developers. Sounds like a unique timing together. If you have a question or two to ask, like the one I asked the AI service at Timu. Got a question that might shine a different light on the subject? Let me know, and I'll feed back any replies I get.
Sounds great. Okay. I'd like to pop a view of a couple of AI cartoons here up on screen. This is from a modification of the cartoon series. I think it's called XKCD.
Oh, right.
The harder you crank AI in that slot, how much does that work for modern digital infrastructure? If you put it at the wrong place like this, oh boy. This is the famous one. This is the single user or the single developer infrastructure of the original cartoon. What happens when this is the linchpin of the whole system? Two different versions of this cartoon have surfaced recently for showing how AI may or may not topple the whole structure. We'll have to see. There's a third I didn't know about. I hadn't seen this particular third one with the slingshot, presumably added to knock that one out. And here's the original XKCD product whose single person developer since 2003.
Chuck Moore.
Anyway, there are lots of neat little views of AI, and I hear some hands furiously raised, or is it? Yep, there we go, Dick and Joe.
No, we're friendly, but raised. I think the 3 variant example you just showed is the one that explains AI the way everyone can understand it. Ay, ay, ay.
We do not know the wedge future. I don't know. We'll see. We will live through it, I'm sure. And finally, a permissively licensed operating system from OpenAI, the parent company behind ChatGPT. Oh, lovely pop-up ads. Here we go again. Close the ad. Thank you very much. Another pop-up ad. You see why we don't like them. OpenAI is challenging Meta's leadership in open weight AI. Developers debate the true openness of the model. GPTOSS. Cute name. The language model GPT-5 is very closed source. You pay for subscription to it, as I understand. Have not used it. Don't really intend to in the near future. GPTOSS is a model that is supposedly a large language model that is open enough for people to use. It's released with the Apache 2.0 license, which is among the most of permissive licenses in common use. Very surprising and positive development, according to some people. I don't know. No limits on commercial use. Patent grant, full permission to use any related patents that go along with it. I don't know. I hope it has benefits to somebody. I'm not sure they're going to be benefits to me as yet. Okay. I don't see any more hands. We do not have a game. Dennis has been too busy working with his son with Scouts, and I appreciate his efforts with that group. He did drawings for some upcoming meeting that they're having. So we are at the end of our agenda, believe it or not, and it's only 4:38. Does anybody have additional things to tell us? Oh, I do, actually. I'm going to go back and make sure I didn't forget to show this. Yes. There is on the Mastodon Fediverse, the federated chat system, not chat system, the social media system, a person named Knitzer, K-N-I-Z-E-R, is trying to get people information about what goes on in Boston every weekend. The proposal is to do a Boston Mastodon in-person meetup during September. And the proposal is to go to the Swap Fest at MIT in Cambridge on Sunday in the middle part of the day on the 21st. I have not followed the reactions to this as yet, but I thought I should mention it as it probably is the kind of thing some people would be interested in, to meet with other Boston area users of the federated chat system known to most people as Mastodon. And it's certainly going to be linked with the technology of the MIT Swap Fest. So if anybody's interested in that, I would hope you would check it out, check out that information. And also, I think I skipped over this one, Software Freedom Days links, with Laura, who does not have the ability to join us during the meetings, but does watch. There are, beyond the 40 years of the Free Software Foundation, what's going to happen with open source, free open source, GPL sourced software. This is a set of meetings designed to organize the future. And if you're interested, you might want to follow up on the links that are here. Any comments, suggestions, additions?
We'll say that.
Well,
Big-
yes,
Big
Nick?
thanks. Big thanks. That's a big list of things to think about.
Yes. Always things to think further about. I thank you all for joining us one way or the other, live or by
Thank
watching the
everybody too.
YouTube video. And I look forward to the October meeting, which is the first Thursday of October, and that's going to be the second, which is really only 3 weeks away. So I hope those who have the ability to suggest new topics will jump on that and get to it so that we have a good list of topics to talk about in 3 weeks. The 2nd of October is our next meeting, 3 o'clock. See you then.
See you then.
Well, that may be the